Okay, awesome, guys. I can see that it is indeed recording. Okay, thanks for the thumbs up. Can you see that I'm switching screens? Just to confirm. Right, thanks for that. So let's get up to speed with today's session. My voice is going to be sounding a bit odd because I'm not feeling as well as I should. But essentially, today we'll be carrying on from the last session that we had. And the last session that we had covered future value annuities. So if for whatever reason you couldn't look at the previous session, I really advise that you go and review the previous session. We covered future value annuities, which would be savings and other things. So just to quickly scroll, we covered a couple of problems, as you can see. We had a look at how we use the timeline to be able to make sense of the time. We also had other questions where we needed to do comparisons in investment. Who's getting the better rate? If you remember, between Jack's parents or Jack and Peter. We also did still the same question, comparison. We also did others. We were looking at the future value and figuring out how much did we get out of the investment / profit, and so on. So there's a lot of questions which we did, guys, on future value. But one thing I need you to all remember is when we're speaking of future value annuities, which is what we covered on the last session, they're important terms. So you'll be looking at, let's say, sinking funds, but that will also appear on present value. As one of your key terms, you'll be looking for investment, savings, and then deposits, retirement annuities, and so on. So keep these in mind. These key terms are for future value annuities. In today's lesson, we are going to have a look at key terms when we now speak of present value annuities. So let's go and begin, guys, and see what we have. So this is what our focus is going to be today. Maybe let me give it a smiley face. We are going to be looking at future value annuities. Sorry, it is present value. We were looking at future value previously. So where I'm going to start is to start by looking at key terms as we did with future value annuities. So remember, with future value annuities, we had things like investment, retirement, and so on. So when you're looking at a present value problem, how do you know that it is a present value problem? There's key terms that you should look at. One of them is the term loan. Once we see the term loan, we should know that we are dealing with a present value problem. Another term that you need to look out for when dealing with these annuities is once you see borrow, you should know that that key term belongs under present value annuities. Once you see the term bond, bond is what your parents take from the bank. So essentially it's money they borrow from the bank to buy a house. And then if you see another term, which is called mortgage, others would call it mortgage. There's, many ways to pronounce this, but I'll call it mortgage. This is another term that you need to look out for. And obviously the term that is common to both of them would be, deposits, continuous deposits, and so on. So this is what we are looking for under present value. These are the key terms. And we also have a very important formula. It differs slightly with the present value from the future value one. So let's look at the present value formula. So let's have a look at that. So we'll look at our formula. What is our present value formula? We did future value previously. You guys are aware of. So let's have a look at it. Present value will be equal to X. X would indicate, I will define what it is, but it will be X 1 into 1, 1 plus the interest, all to the power of negative n. And all of this will be divided by I. So I'll write two forms, guys, if you remember. I usually prefer it when the formula has the compounding period in it, but we'll deal with that in the next page. So the question which we need to ask ourselves is, as we look at our formula, is what is all of these things that we see here? What is X and what is I and so on? So when we're dealing with the present value, our X will indicate the installment. So this would be our installments, essentially the money which we put into the bank. But usually this, you should remember that because we are dealing with loans and money which we borrowed, these installments would be repayment. So these installments would be repayments, not saving or investing. Does that make sense, guys? Very easy to understand, isn't it? It makes a lot of sense. Let's go to the next one. If you look at PV, PV is the present value, we call it. But for the purposes of our problems, what you should understand is that PV would be the amount which we owe. Remember, I said with present value, all what we are dealing with essentially is debt. Debt is money which we owe one way or another. It's either we owe the bank the money because we bought a car or a house and so on. So PV would be the total amount that we owe. So total amount owed. So PV is no longer the future value investment. It is the amount which we owe the bank or whichever institution that is giving us the money. And then I would obviously be the interest rate. Or some problems you will realize, guys, that they will also call it the lending rate, meaning it is the rate or the rate which we are lending you the money at. So they will also call it the lending rate. So it means when you get in a problem and you see them saying lending rate, you shouldn't, feel any way. How? It's straightforward. So now we know the key terms that we need to look out for when we're dealing with future present value problems, and we know the formula and what is in this formula. So it means we are ready to start looking at problems, identify the key terms, and use this formula. You guys understand so far? Where are my thumbs ups? Awesome. So we listen to understand. Okay. Great, guys. Remember, present value, we are dealing with debt. People who are owing. That is what we are focusing on. Future value, this was mostly, maybe let me make a note. For future value annuities, which you can go and revisit the previous session, this would mostly be dealing with saving, investment, and have friends. So this is what you would be focusing on when you look at future value annuities. Present value debt. Someone is owing the bank this amount and. Those are the kind of problems that we are going to be dealing with. Right. Let's go to some problems, guys, to see how we deal with this. And I'll require someone to quickly read this problem for us. Any volunteer?
Lerato repays a loan of 8,000 by means of equal monthly installments of 7,000 per month, starting 1 month after the loan was drawn. The bank charges interest on outstanding balance of the loan at 13% per annum, compounded monthly. Calculate how many monthly payments it will take to repay the loan.
On point. Thank you for that. So let's put this as our question one, guys. So the first thing when we read these problems, because in the exam they will not say to you, this is a future value annuity, this is a present value annuity. So I need us guys to identify the key terms here. That will help us to understand, is this a future value or a present value annuity? Anyone in the meeting, guys? What word do you see that gives you an indication of something? One word or maybe a combination of words? I see a hand from Ayanda.
Repays and loan.
On point.
A loan.
Yep, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. So if you look carefully, there's the term loan. So loan means debt. And then if you look carefully, there is another one, monthly payments. Well, payments. Yep, here's another one, repay. So this tells us an idea that, okay, this person is not investing. So this can be a future value problem. They are dealing with a loan. And then we can see, obviously, there's monthly installments. So this tells us that they are paying every month. Okay. Installment. So if you look at these keywords, guys, your conclusion should be very easy. You should be smiling and realize that what we are dealing with is a present value annuity. Because of the keyword. The keywords, they are the ones that are telling us it's a present value annuity, not a future value, because we are not talking saving, investment, retirement. And once you conclude that we have a present value annuity, you should now remember your formula. P, which is the present value. They usually write it in a subscript. It will be X into 1 minus 1 plus. So I'm going to write it as follows. I over M. I'm going to include M, which is the compounding period, guys. M times N. And all of this will always be divided by I divided by M. So everything which is here, you already know, maybe besides the M, which we didn't touch on today, which is the compounding period. That is the only thing we didn't talk about today. So the question is, guys, to you, when you read this question here, what are we looking for? Because before we can answer any question, we need to have an idea, what is it which they are looking for? And if you read the last statement, they say calculate how many monthly payments it will take to repay the loan. How many monthly payments? They didn't say how much monthly payments. They said how many monthly payments. So what are they looking for, guys? Think of it this way. How many monthly payments can actually be is synonymous to how long? Think of it, if you are making payments monthly and you make 50 payments, we can easily know how long you took to make those 50 payments. But anyway, give it a shot, Ayanda. What are we looking for?
I think we're looking for the minus M times N.
Okay, but what is minus n times n?
It would be your compounded monthly, which would be 12 times the year that he had the loan for.
Yep. So we can look at it in two ways. So one can say we are looking for the number of years, or one can say we are looking for n, of which n will tell us the number of payments that we make. So what happens is with this formula, maybe let me revert to the previous one for the sake of this problem. Let me remove the m and leave it like this. So when we have the n like that, guys, there, what you should remember is that if we use this formula and not include the compounding period, I'll use the other one again. The n here would be the number of repay or the number of payments, if I can use that, made. So if you think carefully, if we are making monthly payments for 5 years, that means you will take 12 multiplied by 5. So let's take that approach, and then I'll use the one which is the compounding period. So if someone can answer the question, what are we looking for? Essentially, the answer would be n here. So the answer would be what we are looking for is n. And now the next question, which we should quickly answer, guys, is what do we have when you read this problem? What do we have, or what are we given? Anyone? What is the 300,000 here? Is it the X? Is it the I? Is it the P? Is it, what is going on? What is what here?
We have PV, which is 300,000.
PV. So what did we say is PV when we were defining it?
It's the total money that you're borrowing from the bank.
Yep,
Total amount.
it's the amount you're borrowing or the amount which you owe. So when you read this problem, you'll see that they say Lerato repays a loan of 300,000. So which means PV is 300,000. That is the amount which Lerato owes. Then if we further read, they say they pay this 300,000 by means of equal monthly installments of 7,000. This means our X is 7,000, guys. And they further tell us that the loan, and there's terms that are very important, which we will look at. They say installments starting 1 month after the loan was drawn. So that 1 month, we will see what it means in our timeline. What else is given is the interest rate. If you look carefully, I is 13%, but they tell us that this is compounded monthly. Okay. So this means that here, what I need to do is to go and divide our interest by 12. So let's go ahead and sub in what we have. So if you look carefully, we have in our formula 300,000 is PV. Our X is 7,000. Open bracket 1 minus 1 plus. So our interest rate is 13%. But remember, they said monthly, compounded monthly. So that is why I should divide by 12. And then if I choose to stick with the n, and what you guys need to be careful of is exactly what n means. So I'll leave it as negative n here. If I want, I can put in the compounding period. Then n will just tell me the number of years. Okay, maybe let me stick to that, guys. Let's put that. So our compounding period is 12. So it will be 12 multiplied by n. And then divided by our interest rate is 13%. We should always divide by 12 because they said the compounding period is monthly. So what we need to do now is to solve essentially for n. And once we get the n, we just multiply it by 12 and we get the number of payments made. So the first thing that we can do in our attempt to solve for n, if you look carefully, is to remove the 7,000. So we divide by 7,000 both sides, such that what we are going to have is 30,000 divided by 7,000. And this will be equal to all of what we have. But another problem that we want to remove is this one here. And if you think carefully, how you remove a denominator on an expression, you multiply by the same, which is in the denominator, on the numerator, on the left and on the right. And if I do so, what I will get is 13% divided by 12. So this will be equal to, and guys, please remember you can stop me at any time. This will now just be equal to 1 minus 1 plus 13% divided by 12, then minus 12n on the exponent there. Let me make some space.
Sir, I
Minus
think you
12n.
forgot a zero for your 300,000.
300,000. Now it's 30,000. Thanks for that. Let's put in an extra zero. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome, guys. Do we all understand what I did here? Right. So we're solving for n. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, transpose it to the other side because I'm avoiding working with the negative that is here. And then take what is on the other side, all of it, move it to the other side. So if you observe carefully, I need someone to just punch in what is inside the bracket for me. What is 1 plus 13% divided by 12? Anyone? What is going to be this here divided by 12? I want what is going to be inside the bracket too. But maybe let's leave it for now. And you'll just calculate it on the step that I'm going to put. So we transpose to the other side, 300,000. I'm missing 1 0 divided by 7,000. And then I just need to multiply with 13% over 12. Just keep your calculators nearby, guys. Very important. So can I please have what is inside the bracket here? What does it become as a fraction?
15 over 28.
1/5 over 2/8. Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. 12n. I need someone to give me the right-hand side. What does it become? 1 minus 300,000 divided by 7,000 multiplied by 13% over 12. What do you get? What do you get, guys?
Sir,
Yes.
we did a mistake. The first answer is 1,218 over 1,200.
So you're saying that 15 over 28 is not correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, please give me that. So, guys, I hope that you do use your calculator as well. Okay, give me the answer again.
1,213 over 1,200.
Over 1,200, like this.
Yes.
Okay. Guys, please make sure that you use your calculators properly. Okay, let me see if I can pop mine and have it a bit closer. Okay, what is the right-hand side going to be then? Anyone? You guys should have your calculators, okay? It makes my life to be very easy because we are able to get more done per period of time. But anyway, let me maybe take this one, 13 over 12. I'm missing 8% here. Okay, so we're getting 15 over 28. So I see what happened. Okay, so the answer was for the other side. Okay, guys, let's now go and solve for the n here. So I want to remind you of something that I think I spoke to you about sometime last week, which was that if I have a to the x equals b, and I'm trying to solve for x, what I need to do is if I want to use the logs, I need to take the a, drop it on the other side, introduce it as a base, and then just use log. So my x will just be log of whatever which is on the right hand side, and then what sits on the square down here becomes our A. That is what sits on that square. And what sits on the right hand side on your calculator is what you're going to put there on your log. So we are looking for what? N. So what we can do, guys, is use your log as I show you here. So minus 12, N will be equal to, if you think carefully, minus 12, N will be equal to log of what is on the right hand side, which will be 15 over 28. So this sits here. And this was that on the right hand side. And then the box, which will come somewhere here below, that will be the other part, which will be 1,213 divided by 1,200. Can you please, guys, use your calculator and tell me what is negative 12n equal to? Let's use our calculators. Minus 12n will be equal to what, guys? See, so on your calculator, there's a log that looks like mine, like this. That is what you should use, guys. Then you put in a fraction, 1213, then divided by 1200. The other side, what we have is another fraction, which is 1528. So the answer which we're getting is negative 56. Nope, negative 57.93, essentially. Are you guys getting the same answer? Those who have their calculators. Awesome, guys. Keep your calculators nearby when you're doing maths, okay? So that is what we get. Now, what I need you to notice is that we have actually found our answer. Let me remove this calculator. So you will see that we have a minus and a minus. So if you divide by -1 on both sides, like this, like that, you will see that 12n will be still 57.93. So this we can just make it and sum it up to 58. But we have actually found our answer. Remember, our answer was calculate how many monthly installments it will take to repay the loan. So I want you guys to remember something with this 12n. So what we have here is the compounding period, which is 12 we're paying monthly, times the number of years n. So, and it gives us 57.93. So that means 12 times the number of years will give us how many times we paid into the account for us to settle our debt. So we could say that actually we paid 60, not 60, but 58 times. We need to make 58 payments. Do you guys understand? If you don't, please make sure that you do unmute. So 12 times n, we are paying monthly, so that is why we have 12 guys, times n. N is the number of years. If I use the formula where I put in the 12 on the numerator, on the exponent. So 12 times the number of years will tell us how many times we made payments here. And 12n currently is saying 57.93. We round it up all the time, so we get 58. So it means we need to make 58 payments for us to be able to pay off this loan. Is it making sense, guys? If it doesn't, just click the unmute button and I'm happy to assist. So that was what they required us to do. So the answer to their question is we need to make, because they said calculate how many monthly installments. So we need to make 58 monthly installments. That is the answer that we're looking for, guys. I hope it makes sense. Right. There's no question for me. Let's go to the next question. So make sure you read for understanding at all times. So let's go to the next question, guys. I need someone to read this for us. And we figure out what are the key terms and what is needed here. Any volunteer? Any person who has not spoken today? So this will be question number 2. Any volunteer? Kamukelo, you can go ahead. Please read the question for us.
Temba takes out a loan of 100,000 to buy a house. The loan is repaid over 20 years. The interest paid on amount outstanding is 8.5% per annum, compounded monthly. Calculate the monthly installment over 20 years.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So guys, let's all get active. We shouldn't be sleeping when we are doing maths. What are the key terms here? Because remember, your problems will be combined with future value problems. So you should be able to spot things here and then say, based on these words, this becomes a present value problem. Any key term which you guys are picking up? Let me pick Busiswa. Which key term do you see here?
A loan and monthly installments.
On point. So once you see, your brain should be like, there you go. I see you loan, and I see they say repayments. So that there alone means this is not a future value problem. So I shouldn't use the wrong formula. You shouldn't, guys. So make sure that you look for the key terms and make sure that you don't use the wrong formula. So once we see loan and repayments, our brain should tell us that, okay, so this means we are looking at a present value annuity. Annuity. And what is the formula for a present value annuity? When you go to the back of your paper, you will see it is PV equals X into 1 minus I plus, in your formula sheet, it would be written like this, but I prefer to rewrite it. In your formula sheet, you will look for this formula. It is the one which has a negative n. Guys, we don't make a mistake. We cannot afford to. So now with that said, we need to go and ask ourselves, how or what are we looking for? Anyone else who has figured this out? And this is a question which you are asking yourself as you are writing in the exam to say, what are we looking for here? Because you need to know, what am I looking for before you can start looking. Anyone, guys? What are we looking for? Let us give that to Tumelo. What are we looking for?
We are looking for X.
On point. So what we are looking for is X. That is what we are looking for, which is the monthly repayment. So on our formula, we can see that, oh, you are what we are looking for. We are looking for this gold. That is what we're looking for. But now the question to you guys again becomes, what do we have? And these are questions that you should ask yourself in the exam when you are working. So you guys should tell me, what do we have? Where is do we? Yeah. What do we have? Anyone? Can you answer, guys? What do we have? It's a very easy question.
So I think we have 100,000, which is present value.
On point. Remember that, yeah, guys, you should be able to talk to me because this is you talking to yourself in the exam that I see that we have the present value, which is 100,000. What else do we have?
Number of payments.
Okay. So we have N, which is 20 years. So we will make payments monthly for 20 years. So that means we will actually make 20 times 12 payments. But that is why I prefer the formula that has the compounding period. So I'll make this to be like this. N is 20, that is the years, and M is 12 because they are saying monthly, that is our compounding period. What else do we have?
Isn't
On point, we have the interest rate, which is given to be 8.5%. So all what is left here, guys, is to go and plug and play. So we know what we are given, we know what we have, we know what we are looking for. So let's go and plug in on our formula. Present value is 100,000. X is what we do not have, and then we'll have 1 minus 1 plus our interest rate is 8.5%. And this will be divided by, we are doing monthly payments. Sorry, we are doing monthly pay. Our interest is compounded monthly. So we'll divide by 12 and come here. And then we'll have minus 12 multiplied by our N, which is 20 years, like this. And then this should be divided by 8.5% divided by our compounding period, which is 12. So remember that, guys, we are solving for X. So it means I need to just go to my calculator and divide all of this here by what we have on the right-hand side. So clearly for me to have X, I don't want all of what I have this side. I want to remove all of it. And the way which you can do so is actually by dividing by it. So if you go and divide by what we have, that is how we are going to remove it. So I'm just going to copy it, all of this, which you could just put in on your calculator. We just put it here on the left, like that, and it will cancel with the other one divided by 12, and then we go and put it somewhere here on the left-hand side, because what you do on the left, remember, guys, you also do it on the right. So I'm just getting out by space here, but let's see. Yeah. So what you do on the left, you also do on the right-hand side. Another alternative would be maybe an easier way. We just calculate these numbers. It becomes easier that way, guys. So how about you go and punch in on your calculator so that you don't make mistakes? Give me this pink part. What do you get when you punch it on your calculator as a fraction? Let's use our calculator, guys. I'll open the bracket. What do we get? And don't forget to put in the negative on the exponent, okay? That green part. What do we get? Anyone?
It is 115.23.
115,
23.
23. Right. So what we know is that we are not looking for x times something, but we are looking for x by itself. So this means I need to divide by 115.23, and what we do on the left, we also do on the right, okay? divide by 115,23. So that is what we have. So let me copy this, in fact, and just put it here. So you guys can give me what the X is. What is the X? So this and this will cancel, obviously. So on the right-hand side, we'll be left with X. So X will be equal to what? So it's 100,000 divided by 150. It is
867,83.
0.83 like this.
No, so it's 82.
82. So
After 2
800
is 9. So we converted to 2 decimal places. That's why I said 3.
Okay, maybe let's start again. Please give me the answer.
It's 867,83. When it's
Comma
converted
83.
to 2 decimal places, yes.
Okay, so the other colleague who was saying 27 were you saying 827? Okay, I see the thumbs up there. So there you go, guys. Our answer is there. So our answer is that Temba will have monthly payments of 867,83 rands. These are his monthly repayments. So he took out a loan, and this is the amount that he needs to pay per month. So this is beautiful, guys, isn't it? The person goes to the bank. If we know the interest rate and we know how much they are borrowing, because we are geniuses, we can calculate the amount that they will pay per month on their behalf. Isn't it a superpower? Imagine. Okay, that is that, guys. Do you understand this problem here? You should be the genius down the road and they say, I want to go to the bank and borrow money. The genius down the road should say, I'm going to calculate how much you're going to pay. Impressive. So I'm glad you guys understand that. Let's go to the next question. Question 3. We need a volunteer who has not read today. We should all be active, guys. When they say you attract, you should attract the maths also. Let's attract good things. Yes, you can go ahead.
A loan of 100,000 is paid over a period of 6 years from the time that the loan is taken by equal monthly payments at an interest rate of 6.5% per annum compounded monthly. If payment starts 5 months after the loan is granted, what monthly payments are required to repay the loan?
On point. Thank you for that, Tobega. So, guys, the first thing is we need to figure out this is a problem. So, what are the key terms here that they need me to be aware of? Anyone who has not spoken, give it to us. You know yourself. Anyone, what key term do you see there, Kulufelo?
A loan and monthly payment.
On point. So we should see, guys, that we have the term loan there. And that should get you smiling already when you are writing your trial and your final exam. And when you look carefully, you should also be able to see repaid. Okay, or repay. So you're going to see repay, repaid. These are the same thing. And so on. So we have identified enough terms for us to be able to see that what we are dealing with is not a future value problem. We are not investing here. This is a present value annuity. And then guess what? When you are dealing with present value, which is just PV, you go to your formula sheet at the back and you look for the formula that has PV, and you will see that PV will be equal to x into 1 minus 1 plus I to the power of -1. You don't use the other one that looks very close like this one, I. So the PV one, you should always notice it always has a minus in between, and it has also that minus on the end. Okay. So now that we figured out this is a present value problem, my question, guys, is what are we looking for? Anyone? Because that is very important for us to understand. Before we can try and put pen on paper, I should be clear, what is it which I'm looking for here? And if you look at the last sentence, they say, if the payments start 5 months after the loan is granted, what monthly repayments are required to repay the loan? So what are we looking for, guys?
We're looking for the X.
You guys are geniuses. What we are looking for is X. Right. This is the only X you should look for, okay? That is what we're looking for. This is a good one. So now that we know what we are looking for, we should ask ourselves what do we have. And this one is very nice because we are going to draw a timeline. What do we have? So you guys should give me what we have now. What is what and what is what here? So you just give me what you think you can see here, and that's it.
The interest rate, which is 6.5%.
On point, I is 6.5%. Genius. And what else do you guys see?
PV, which is 100,000.
PV, 100,000. And what else do you guys see? We guys can see the N, isn't it? Look at the N. The N is 6 years. You guys agree? And I'm going to give you another one, M. Our M is 12. And remember, M is the compounding period, guys. Okay. So we have all what we need now. They're asking us, what is X? X is what we don't have. But we need to be very careful with this X here. So if you look at our problem, guys, they say we start paying after 5 months. Okay. And this does matter because it affects our problem. So let's draw our timeline and see what happens. So at time 0, so I'll have my timeline. Let me see. Let me have it like this, guys. Let's have our timeline like this. So we'll be at time 0, T0. And at time 0, we are taking a loan amount of 100,000. Isn't it, guys? Understood. But we are going to have a month later, which is going to be T1. And then we are going to have month number 2 passing month number 3, T3. And then T4. And then we get to the 5th month. And look at what happens. We haven't started repaying our loan. And that is why we need to always draw our timelines. So we haven't started repaying our loan here. So this money will compound. The loan will increase on that month, increase, and then increase. Then at month number 5, that is where we now look into when we go to month number 6. We are now going to start repaying our loan. But if you think carefully, because we have 6 years, guys. How many months are there in 6 years? So the last month, if we're looking at 6 years, would be 6 times 12. What is that, guys? Is it 72 or what? What is 6 by 12?
Yes, it's 72.
Am I not smart? Maybe not. Anyway, the last month, guys, which is going to be
72.
73. Oh, we're starting at. Why are you saying 73?
No, it's 72.
Okay, 72. So this would be at year number 6. So this would be at year 6. Yeah, let me just not say 6 years, but that would be at year number 6. Year 6. Does this make sense so far, guys? And for this period, up until month number 5, we made no payment. Does it make sense? There's T6 and so on, and many other months here. So when we are not paying the bank, guys, it is putting interest on the amount which we borrowed. So the amount that we borrowed here, which is not getting paid, it is gaining interest. So by the time we get to the end of month number 5, the loan would have been more because we delayed paying it, guys. So we need to figure out how much are we owing at the end of month number 5, which we are then going to use to calculate the X. So this one we'll call it P5. That is the amount which we owe at month number 5. So P5, that is the amount owed after 5 months. We're not making payment. So this amount is gaining interest. So when we start making payments, we will not be making payments trying to settle the 100,000. It will be more. But guess what? This now becomes, in fact, it shouldn't be P here, it should be A, guys. A5. This should be A5. So there's a formula or compound interest formula which we learned. Do you remember, guys, that A is P into 1 plus I divided by M, all to the power of M times N. However number of payments we need to make. So we stayed without making payments for 5 months, and the value of the loan is 100,000. So this means after 5 months, we would have had 100,000, and this would have gained interest. 100,000, that's 10. This would have gained interest, and the interest is at a 6.5% rate, and this is happening monthly. But here we are just going to put 5 because we are just not paying for 5 months, guys. Does that make sense? So this problem needed us to touch our brain a bit and say, but I can't just say this is the P because I delayed paying the bank. Does it make sense, guys? If it does, give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't, please ask. You will get similar problems in the exam, and you need to understand what happens when I delay paying. The amount gains interest. The only time we don't worry about the amount gaining interest is when they say you start the payment in 1 month's time. Once it is more than that, there's problems. Do you guys understand? So 1 month's time is the best case. You don't do anything. You become happy. Once they start putting more months, that is where we worry. So we first need to figure out this P5, this A5. And this A5, if you think carefully, it will be the present value. That would be the amount which we are owing before we start making our payments. So anyone who has the calculator, guys, please give me the answer. What is the present value? Which is just the amount at the end of the 5th month. What do you get, guys?
102,000.
102,737.83.
737,83, like this.
Yes.
Awesome. So this is the present value, guys. Do you understand why we are going to use this as the present value? I'm going to pick people now. They should tell me why they understand. So we have a person who's called Tembisile. Do you understand why I couldn't use the 100,000 to calculate X, which is what we are looking for? If yes, why did we do what we did? If no, I'm going to maybe help you to answer that.
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have anyone who wants to attempt to help them to understand before I try myself? Anyone in the meeting volunteers, guys? Do you know that you learn better when you explain to others? Because you start wondering if you actually understand what you are saying yourself. Anyone, guys? So it means you all don't understand what I did. Is that the case? Okay. If that is the case, guys, I need us to quickly go back to what is happening. So we borrowed 100,000 from the bank and we didn't pay for 5 months. So if you look carefully, if equal payments will start 5 months later, once there's time, guys, the bank is not there to like us. The bank is there to make money. So if you delay paying them, the money becomes bigger with time. Does that make sense? So if they borrow you today 100,000 and you delay paying, 6 months later you can't say I'm going to pay you 100,000. They will put in an interest on it because you are inconveniencing them for not giving them their money. So that is why we said we have a timeline T1 up to T5. There are no payments made. And guess what? When there are no payments made, the amount we borrowed is gaining interest. So when we start paying after month number 5, the amount would have been different, and we call it A5. And that A5 will be the present value then when we start paying, because the present value, remember, is the amount we owe. So we'll calculate our X based on the amount we owe when we start paying in 5 months' time. We can't calculate X based on now and we don't pay. Does that make sense? Where are my thumbs ups, guys? If it doesn't, please unmute and ask me a question. So that is why we had to calculate a new PV, because the PV, which is the amount you owe, determines how much you should pay every month. So we can't use 100,000 because we are not starting to pay while we are still owing 100,000. We are going to start paying when we owe more because we delayed. And that is why we had to calculate how much would we be owing after 5 months at the interest rate that they gave us, because we said we want to start paying after 5 months. Now, this is the value which we are getting, which we are owing. Only now can we start calculating the X, because we know after 5 months we'll be owing this amount, and that is when we are going to start paying the X. So we need to calculate the X based on the amount that would be owing then. Does it make sense now? I think Tembisile.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So you guys are very smart. I hope you understand. So now we have our P. We can now, guys means ladies and gents, we can now go and work out what is our X. So we have all what we need. Now we can go ahead, but there's one thing which we need to determine. Remember that we stayed not paying for 5 months. So we are going to start paying at the beginning of we are going to start paying on month number 6. Let me think carefully. So that is the end of the first month, end of the second, third, the fourth, the fifth. Okay. So we're going to start paying from here up until there. So how many payments do we need to make, guys? Or how many months are between 5 and 72? So remember, we need to pay for 72 months, but for 5 months, we didn't pay. So how many months are left for us to finish this loan? Anyone? Give it a shot, guys. We have 72 months in total. For 5 months, we don't pay. But we need to finish this loan in 72 months. How many months are left for us to finish this loan?
67.
67 months.
67.
On point. Does it make sense, guys? So we are left with 67 months to pay. The bank told us 6 years. If you delay, we add more money on your amount, but you must be done in 67 months if you delay for 5 months. So this means we can now go to our formula. Our PV is 102, 737,83 equals X is what we do not have, which is what we are looking for, into 1 minus 1 plus. Our interest rate is 6.5. So we have 6.5%. Let me zoom in there so that I just have space. Remember, guys, you can ask if it doesn't make sense. Okay. So this is compounded monthly. And then here I will put minus 67 because those are the number of payments that we need to make to finish this loan. Does that make sense, guys? Divided by that. So let me take this or make some space here. Does it make sense why we have the 67 there on the exponent? It is because that is the number of payments that we have left for us to finish this loan. So 6.5% divided by 12. So let's go to the next page and I'll need you guys to use your calculators to punch this for me. Let me add one more page, maybe 2 more. Okay, what do you get, guys? Go to your calculator and punch what is multiplying X there. So on the left-hand side, I have 102, 737,83. This will be X multiplied by what? I'll just put it in brackets. What do we have, guys?
56,062.
56,062, like this.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
It's yes, 6 to 8, yes.
So what do I need to correct here?
No, it's right.
Okay, awesome. So remember, we're looking for X, not X multiplied by anything. So by now you should remember that whenever we're looking for X, we need to divide by whatever which is multiplying the X. So 56.062, what you do on the left, you also do on the right. 56.062, and the right-hand side nicely cancels, leaving us with X. So X will now just be that 102 divided by that. What do we get, guys? Let me still put it like this. What do you get when you divide the left-hand side?
1,832,58.
On point. So this is our X, guys, 1,832,58. This will be our monthly repayment. Does it make sense, guys? Tell me that maths is hard. It is not. Does it make sense? I see a lot of thumbs ups. I'm so happy. So it is very important for you to understand the problem and why we are doing what. I think the problem with many learners is they look at the solution in class and say, oh, 5 months, and then they do this thing blindly without understanding why did we even do that. It's very important for you to understand. Okay, any questions on question 3, guys? I'm happy to answer. Any question? Okay, I see no questions. So I'm going to ask one of you to explain to us what we did in this problem and why they think we did what we did. So I'm going to pick a person. I think there is Tejo. What do you understand from this problem here? Just give it a shot. You are not being tested or anything. It is your understanding of this problem. Are you there? Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just going to say, do we have any volunteer here who wants to tell us what is their understanding of this problem? Any volunteer? Tobela. I see you silent. Let's give it to Ayabonga.
So we're owing the bank money. We had to pay for 72 months, and we started paying after 5 months. So we had to calculate the amount of money we started owing after 5 months. So in order to calculate to get that money, we use the compound period formula, and then we get our present value, which is 102,737.83. That is the amount that we use to get the X, which is the monthly installments. So you use that amount to get the monthly installments, and the monthly installment is 1,832.58.
On
Yes.
point. Thank you for that. So I'm glad you guys understand. So let's go to the next question. Can you please, guys, clap for them? It's the effort that matters, okay? So let's go into this one. Very interesting. This is going to be our Q4. You guys will ace these problems. You won't believe it. So let's have a look at our question 4. I need someone who's going to volunteer to read this for us. Any volunteer, guys? In the interest of time, just give it a shot. You are just reading.
A couple, okay. A couple buys a car for 450,000. They put down a deposit and get a car for the balance at a rate of 11% per annum, compounded monthly. The couple calculates that it will take 6 years to repay their loan if they make a regular month payment of 3,800.
Okay, thanks for that. So let's start before we go to the question and just note down some key terms, guys. As always, it is routine. Anyone, what is the key term which you see from here?
A loan and repay.
Okay, so if you look carefully, there's loan somewhere there and repay. And many others which you could, choose what they mean. But once we see loan and repay, we should remember that what we are dealing with is a present value annuity. So let's quickly see what happens. Present value annuity, we know the formula from the back of our paper is this one, 1 minus 1 plus I, all to the power of negative n, divided by I like this. Now, let's start with A. For A, guys, the question is, what are we looking for? So the question for A reads, how much money have they borrowed from the bank? Leave your answer to the nearest, what, 1,000 rand. Okay, so what do you think, guys? The couple wants to buy that car, which is 450,000. They put up a deposit for the balance at that rate compounded monthly. And the couple calculates that it will take 6 years to repay the loan. So the question is essentially how much did they borrow from the bank if they are paying that 3,800? So maybe let me give you an idea, guys, in the interest of time. So if you put up a deposit, you will borrow less money from the bank, isn't it? So if you want to have a loan and you put up a deposit, you are offsetting whatever amount you are going to borrow by whatever amount that you are putting as a deposit. So when we look at the question of how much money they borrowed from the bank, we need to ask ourselves, how much do they owe? And how we are going to get the amount that they borrowed from the bank, if you think carefully, we know how much they are repaying, and we know how long it's going to take, and we know the interest rate. So what are we looking for here, guys?
The p-value.
Yep, we're looking for the present value, because remember, previously you were given how much these people borrowed from the bank, and you were asked calculate how much they will pay monthly. Now they give us how much they are paying. They tell us they're going to pay for 6 years. They give us their interest. Now the question is, how much money did they borrow from the bank? Essentially, the question is in A, if I can rephrase it, how much do they owe the bank? How much do they owe the bank? And if you think of this question, it is very easy. It's a present value question, PV. So it means we are looking for PV here. So we can go ahead and look for our PV, which will be our X is 3,800 into 1 minus 1 plus our interest rate. We are told it is 11%. But very importantly, guys, it is compounded or the compounding period is 12. So we'll have minus 12 times the number of years. They told us that they are going to repay this in 6 years. So I'm going to multiply by 6. Okay. And then close the bracket. And this will be divided by the interest rate divided by the compounding period. So we'll have 11% divided by 12. So maybe just to quickly make a legend of what is going on here, our I was 11%. Our compounding period was given as 12 because they said compounded monthly. N, which is the number of years, is 6. And X was given as 3,800. So what is our PV, guys, when you put it in your calculator? What is the present value?
199,641.92.
So you said 100 and
99,641.92.
92. So our answer here should be very easy, guys. This is what the couple borrowed from the bank. So answer, this couple, it means it saves. Guys, do you see that they are responsible adults? So we can tell them that the couple borrowed. The question was, how much money have they borrowed? Yeah. What did I do now? Yeah, the couple borrowed this amount here, 119,641.92 rands. Do you guys understand? Right. I see that. And then, so they said we should round it up to the nearest 1,000 rand. So we should read in the instructions, very important. So they said round it to the nearest 1,000 rand. So it means what we are going to do is round it up because they said round to the nearest 1,000. So the more correct answer, which is rounded to the nearest 1,000. So to the nearest 1,000, what is it going to be, guys? When we round this answer to the nearest 1,000, what do we get? Anyone? So the problem is the 600 and something. So when you round that to the nearest 1,000, you get 1,000. So essentially our answer is 200,000. Does that make sense, guys? If it doesn't, please shout. If we are saying we are rounding 600 to the nearest 1,000, it just becomes what? 1,000, isn't it? So that is what they were expecting from us. And then the question B, they say, discuss the final payment amount. What do you think they are looking for, guys, on B? What are they looking for? Discuss their final payment. Let me see. What did I highlight here? This is B. Yeah. Discuss their final payment. What do you have to say about this, guys?
The final payment is going to be less than 3,800.
Why is it going to be less than 3,800? Yep, you can give it a shot. Why is it going to be less? Anyone else, guys? If the bank uses up the rounded value, which we have here, which is 200,000, what can we say about our final payment? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to give it to you. So remember that the 3,800, guys, works out if the bank says you owe us exactly this amount. So if they pay 3,800 on the dot, they will be able to make it. But if the bank chooses to say, okay, let's round off the amount you owe us to 200,000, do you see that the amount is now slightly more than what you would pay off if you were at 119? So it means the last payment must be slightly more than 3,800, because at 3,800 it would work perfectly if this is the amount. But the bank chose to round off the 600 and made it to be 1,000. So it means we need to pay slightly more on the last payment. Does it make sense, guys? That is just the comment that you leave. Do you understand? So here we could say the last payment will be slightly more than what we have here. So it will be slightly more than this amount here, 3,800. Does it make sense why that is, guys? I see a hand from Ayabonga.
Sir, could you please explain again?
Okay. So I'll need you to keep your mic unmuted. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So when we are paying 3,800 on the dot, we will see that we actually borrowed 1,000. We borrowed 119,641. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So that is the amount that we are paying off because that is the amount we borrowed. But the bank chooses to say, let's round off this value to 2,000. Do you see that your 3,800 is only going to get you to 1,919 and then 641, which means on the last payment, you can't pay the 3,800 because it will put you at 119,000, but you want 200,000 because the bank chose to round this up. It means the last payment must be slightly more than 3,800 to cover what the bank did, which was choosing to round up your amount. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yep. That is
Yes.
what they meant when they say discuss. Do you understand now?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you guys now understand? Thanks for the question. It really assisted some. Awesome, guys. Now that we know how much we borrowed from the bank, we can now calculate the deposit price for the car. So we know that, guys, let's use this value of 200,000, round it up. So we have 200,000 that we owe the bank, but the car was initially 450,000. So how much did we put as a deposit? Because if we didn't have the deposit, guys, we're going to owe the bank 450,000 for the car. But the partners, they did something such that they owe the bank 200,000 when they are starting. So how much was the deposit? Anyone?
250,000.
So deposit amount. So if you think carefully for the deposit, what happened is you had the 450,000. Remember that we are looking at the money which we borrowed from the bank. So what happened is the bank, we are owing it 200,000. So you just do a solve for X, which is very simple. So we owe the bank 200,000, but the car was 450,000. So we must have put up a deposit amount. And let's call this deposit amount Y. So we did 450 minus Y for us to get to that amount, which is 200,000. So when you solve for Y here, you will see that your Y will be 450,000 minus 200,000. And your Y, which will be your deposit, will simply be 250,000. Does it make sense, guys? Because what you borrow from the bank, you have offset your debt. You said, bank, look, I have some money in the bank. I don't want to borrow 450,000. So I'm going to give you a certain amount. But I know now that if I give you that amount, I owe 200,000. If the car was 400,000, now I'm only going to borrow 200,000. How much did I have? Means the couple at 250,000. Does it make sense, guys? Right. So that is done with that. And then let's go to the next question, which would be D. I like these questions here. They make us to think. I'm happy that you guys understand what is going on. It's very important that you do. So let's have a look at the next question, which is D, guys. And for D, they say by the time they pay their car in full, how much interest would they have paid the bank? Now, guys, we need to think of the interest that we paid to the bank. So we know how much we owe the bank, or how much they tell us we need to pay them, and we know how much we paid. So how do we find the interest, guys? Think about it carefully. So we're looking at D for interest. So how much did the bank benefit from us? Anyone, guys? By the time they fully paid the car, how much interest will they have paid to the bank? Anyone wants to give this a shot?
So I think we could use the compound interest formula.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, on the 250,000.
On the 250,000, which is their
Uh,
deposit.
no, from the 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can use the compound interest and then minus both the amounts.
What do you mean both the amounts?
So we're gonna use the 200,000 compound interest, and then
Yeah.
when we get the amount, we take that amount and minus the 200,000 that we paid.
Okay. Okay. So let's give what she's saying a shot. So they are saying that for us to get the interest, that the bank made, remember we owe the bank about what, 200,000? So you're saying we should do 200,000 into 1 plus our rate is 11% over 12, and for 6 years I believe that is what, 72. Then you're saying we should subtract.
No, so we get the amount of the 200,000, and then that amount minus the 200,000.
And then that gives us the interest.
The interest, yes, sir.
So that would be the same as us minusing the 200,000 here, isn't it? Because
Yes,
this
sir.
will be the amount. Okay, give us the answer. And maybe explain to others, why do you think this works? Let's check the answer first.
Because the bank charges us interest if we borrow money every month. So that's what I think.
Okay. What is the answer which you getting? And then
185,796.77.
mm, so can you please repeat that?
185,000.
You said 700 and
96.77.
96.77.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else, guys, who's thinking slightly different? Is this supposed to be the interest that the bank got? Let's quickly read. By the time they have paid their car in full, how much interest will they have paid to the bank? Your thoughts, guys? Okay. So this is a fair and a good attempt. But remember what should happen. So we need to figure out, for us to be able to understand the interest, we need to figure out how much did they pay in total and how much were they owing the bank. And then the difference of the two is what will give us the interest. I need you to think about it. So I'll keep this here on the screen. Regardless, I'll just make that. So if you think carefully, interest itself would be how much did we give the bank versus how much were we owing it. If you think carefully, the bank will make you to give more than what you were actually owing because of the interest rate. So if you think carefully, we need to think of, let's quickly get the total payments. So if you think carefully, the total payments which we made to the bank were about, we made 72 payments of 380, 800. But remember that this is not enough for us to pay off to get to that 200,000. But these payments will just get us exactly at that. So if we want, we can also add in the difference between the two. So if you think carefully, for us to move from this year to the 200,000, you needed to add, I believe, 300 and what is the difference between 200,000 and this, guys? What is 1,000 minus 641.92? Anyone? Are you getting it, guys?
It's 358.08.
On point. So because the bank rounded this up, or at least we assume that, it means on the last month we need to pay in an extra, you said 300 and what?
58.08.
358.08. So this is the amount which we need to pay extra on the last month, so that the 3,800 will cover that, but the extra amount will push it to 200,000. So it means the amount that we paid, we also need to add in that 358.08. So can you guys give me the total payments that we made to the bank? How much did we give the bank in total?
$273,958.08.
250.
273,958.08.
273. Yep, 900
58.08.
the 8.08. So these are the total payments that we made to the bank. Do you guys see what is going on? The bank, we gave it 273,000, but how much are we owing the bank? Do you guys remember how much we owing the bank?
200,000.
On point. We owe the bank 200,000. But the bank is able to creatively make us to pay 273,000. So the interest that the bank is eating is what we paid. It is 273,958.08 minus this 200,000. What is the answer, guys? So it will just be the 73. So it will be 73,958.08. So essentially, we are giving the bank about 74,000 for not having 200,000 with us. Is that good, guys? Sounds like a good deal, isn't it? Yeah, very interesting. So because you couldn't afford and have 200,000 with yourself, you're going to pay me 73,000 for that. That is what is happening here. Okay. So that is that, guys. Very interesting problem. So let's go to E and maybe wrap it up soon. So they say for E, if they decrease their monthly installments by 300, the couple, how long will it take them to repay their loan? So let's go and have a look at that. So E. So if they decrease their installment by 300, it means the new X now will be, it was 3,800, will minus the 300. So it means their installments, they now want to pay 3,500. Agreed, guys? So if they wanted to pay 300 less, they would be paying 3,500. That makes sense. But now the question is, how long would it take them to repay their loan? Remember, they would still be borrowing the same amount. So their PV would still be, let's work off with that 200,000. It would still be 200,000. That is the amount that they owe. But they want to pay installments of 350,000. So the question is, how long will it take them? So essentially what we are looking for here is the number of payments that they will need to make. Then from that, guys, we can easily figure out the number of years. So the formula is straightforward. PV, our PV is now 200,000. We see 200,000, that is 20. And then our X is now 3,500, so 3.5 into 1 minus our interest rate is still the same, 11%. Sorry, I need to put in 1 plus. I hope this does make sense, guys. So we have 1 plus 11% divided by 12. And then I'm looking for how long will it take. So I'm going to calculate the number of years. So I'm going to put negative. Remember the compounding period is 12, so I'll have 12n, where n is the number of years, and then divided by 11% over 12. So we need to solve for n. I'm going to do a couple of things at the same time. So the first thing I'm going to do is to divide by the 3,000 on the other side. So I'm going to divide by it, but also to remove this percentage, I'm going to multiply by it the other side. Okay? So if you look at what will happen is I'll have 200,000 divided by 3,500 and then multiplied by 11% divided by 12. And what I now have on the other side is simply 1 minus. I need someone to quickly punch in that 1% plus 11. So that 1 plus 11% divided by 12, what does it become? Anyone, guys? What is that? 1 plus 11% divided by 12. So what I get is 1,211 divided by 1,200. This is to the power of negative 12n. So I can now go ahead and solve for n here by taking it to the other side. So I'll have 1,211 divided by 1,200 to the power of minus 12n equals, I'll transpose to the other side and have 1 minus 200,000 divided by 3,500 multiplied by 11% divided by 12. So can you guys give me the right hand side? What is it going to be? Anyone who's using their calculator, what is the right hand side going to be? Anyone?
It is 10 over 21.
10 over 21, like this.
Yes.
Okay, interesting, awesome. So we can now, guys, go ahead and look for our n. So you now know the log laws, so I'm expecting you to be punching this as I create my space above here. So it will be negative 12 log. So we'll have negative 12n equals log of, here at the bottom, we'll have 1211 divided by 1,200. And then here we'll have 10 over 21. What is the answer equal to, guys? What do you get when you put in log of those? Anyone? Let's put it in 10 over 21. So I am getting negative 81.34. Negative 81 point, not 34, rather 31. Are you guys getting the same? Right. If you're getting the same, then we can now easily find the actual n, guys. So how do we find the n? We divide by minus 12. What you do on the left, you do on the right, divide by minus 12, divide by minus 12. What is n, guys? N is going to be what? Okay, so if you look carefully, I'm just going to round that up. So for n, we are going to have 6.78 years. See 77, yep, on point. So do you see that if they choose to reduce their installment, they are no longer going to take 6 years on the dot, but they are going to take 6 years and a couple of months. So maybe let's leave this just as 6 years and a few months. So I'm going to go to the next page and convert what we have to months. And then we can wrap this up. So if you look carefully, if you remember, we got our n as 6.78. So this would be years. Do you guys remember how I get months out of years which are a decimal like this? So if I may remind you, that there counts for months. So what we are going to have is, in order for us to get the months, we are going to take that decimal place, which is 0.78, then multiply it by 12. So what do we get? 0.78 by 12. Let me pull my small calculator.
It's 9.36.
9.36. So in the interest of time, what you're going to see is you'll see that these people will need to pay for 6 years, 9 months, 0.3. So this means actually this will fall even on the 10th month. You guys see, because 9 point something means we've passed the 9th month. We are going to the 10th. It might not be the full month, but yeah, we can just call this 10 months. So it means this couple will now need to repay their loan in 6 years and 10 months because they want to reduce their installment by 300 rands. That is the consequence. Okay, does it make sense, guys? So that would have been if they Yeah, we actually did something here. So we did decrease and they wanted increase. So I'll put here decrease. That is what we did. So we decreased our installment by 300 instead of increasing, guys. So I'll need to give this to you as homework. Go and increase, which means you'll add 300 on the installment and see the period should reduce. That I'm going to leave for you as homework. So in fact, what we did is F. They want to decrease by that. So this E here, let me erase it and put it as F, because F, that is where they decrease. So you guys should go and try E, where they say increase. Meaning instead of having a minus here, you will have a plus. Does it make sense? And you'll do the same calculation again. The installment will be 3,800 plus what you would call it 300. So you'll do the calculation and see what you get. Okay. So guys, let's close that question. So I have another question for you, but this is going to be your homework in the interest of time. So please take a screenshot and share this among yourself or try it yourself. This is going to be your homework. And on the next lesson, I'm going to start on this one. And I think I have one last one. Please take a screen grab of this, and this is also going to be your homework. I'm going to do this on our next lesson. So 2 homework questions. These are for you guys to work on. Just give them a shot and see what you obtain, and then check out the lesson that we are going to have next. I'm going to work on these. Any questions for me? Guys, are you happy? Give me a thumbs up if you are, and just ask a question if you are confused. So remember, please do your homework. Send this in the group for others to be able to access, okay? And give it a shot. 2 homework questions. Very easy, guys. There's no question for me. Let's call it a day. Cheers, guys. Thanks for attending and take care. Bye-bye.